How you going? Afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad. You okay?
Yeah, good mate, good. How are you keeping safe and stuff, all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm doing all right. It's kind of at the start. It's kind of like a bit weary. I was like, what's happening? It's like a movie, but slowly,
Yeah.
yeah, slowly I've kind of adjusted to it now. I've got used to like having no football and stuff.
It's
But
a killer, man. Like, it's this the gym and stuff, not having the gym and not being able to go out and play some sport. It's just the weirdest thing.
it is, isn't it? Did you stop playing basketball up until the time? And yeah,
Yeah, they've cancelled all our seasons now, apart from one. They haven't made a decision yet, but there's
yeah.
only one to play, and it's like it decides who wins the title. So I
Oh
think
god.
hoping that they can play it at some point, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird. It's just weird.
How was it with work wise? Was it like a last minute thing? Was you guys leading up to it, or was it like a just like straight away? This is what's happening.
It was weird for me because I was in Greece with work,
Oh, wow.
and Wolves were playing Olympiacos.
Yeah,
There was loads of talk whether that game would go ahead while we were over there. Thankfully, it did, but behind closed doors.
yeah,
And then back, and I was due in work on the Tuesday,
yeah,
and I got back on like the Friday, and then they just said, "Oh, don't come into the office, work from home." And
yeah,
since like, I've got the laptop, so like working remotely is not an issue for me.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's just weird, and there's not a whole lot for us to do. Like they've furloughed a lot of our
Yeah,
staff, but because we run the website, they wanted to keep us on,
yeah,
which is. But then like there are times when I'm sat here and I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
yeah.
Now I'm just kind of like putting my time into planning like a project for work, which might happen afterwards. But
Oh, good stuff.
yeah, it's kind of weird though. It's just like you get up, start work, and then you finish work at like 4 o'clock, and then I'm home
Yeah,
already. There's some positives to it, but
yeah.
it's strange. It's a killer not having the games there. That's the killer.
It's true. And talking about that game with Olympiacos and Wolves, how was that experience behind closed doors? How did that pan out?
It was weird, man. I've not covered like any game like that before. Like
Yeah,
a lot of I cover like under 23s games or like youth games, and
yeah,
it's basically behind closed doors, like it's family there.
yeah,
But first time like actually covering a behind closed doors game like that, and it was just strange from start to finish. Like the build up to the game was still the same, so they're still playing the music, they were still playing the videos,
yeah.
they still had like the sound, like the
Wow.
speakers and stuff on.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
so like they were still building it up as if there were fans in there, but there
yeah.
was no. Um, and you got the sense from like the players that it was kind of like a training game almost, like Ed and stuff. But it was just like I can't remember the player's name. Someone got sent off for Olympiacos,
Yeah,
and like they put up a little bit of a protest about it, but it was like in an actual game they'd have been like fuming and
yeah,
great. Whereas there, just kind of seemed like it was a practice game. He'd just been sent off, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll." But it was weird because you didn't have any post-match press conferences with the Wolves players or anything.
man.
It was right at the start of the outbreak, which was so
Yeah,
no one really knew what to do. Everyone was just kind of like, okay, no press conferences, none of the players are going through the mix zone, stuff like that.
yeah,
I didn't enjoy it personally. I don't think the players enjoyed it,
yeah.
and obviously the fans didn't get to watch it in the ground, so they wouldn't have enjoyed it either.
That's it. It just shows us how much like the fans are like a big part of the sport in terms
Yeah,
of
man. Like in terms of atmosphere and stuff, there's
that's
nothing around.
it. This is true. Keeping on Wolves, how you finding their season up until obviously you got it stalled with the corona issues. How are you finding them? There's been fourth place, 5 points off fourth, sorry. Was you impressed with how that was going on?
Yeah, Wolves have been really good this season. I mean, they started a little bit shaky, is maybe a tough way to put it, like the wrong way to put it. But you know, they had a lot of games in a short period of time with the Europa League and the
Yeah,
small squad that they got. And obviously things didn't start brilliantly for them,
yeah,
but they kind of groove and they just got into that. And Wolves, you know, with Nuno there, Nuno obviously has been embedded in the squad and knows his squad and is very precise in the way he wants to play.
yeah,
Players have bought into that, so when it all kind of works, they all click together really well, and you can see some really good performances from them.
yeah,
Uh, I do think they need to like bulk up the squad a little bit. Nuno is very picky in the players that he brings in.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way they've been playing, I mean, I think Wolves now are seen as like a legitimate option for a lot of, players who want to get into the Premier League and do well in the Premier League because they see Wolves doing well. And if they finish in European places again, should the season continue or resume, obviously it's only going to help their cause. If they can finish in the Champions League at any point or work their way into the Champions League, then it's only going to boost their prospects as well because you're opening yourself up to another level of player. I suppose the big question for the club is whether they're willing to commit the money that they would need to sign those kinds of players.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Wolves and they've done it really well up until now in signing, almost those hidden gems or players may not cost an absolute fortune. But they've almost bulked a little bit at some deals where they could have maybe got done. There was a lot of talk with them going for Ruben Diaz previously, but they were quoted a lot of money for that. And teams battling at that level kind of need to start spending that money at some point. Mark now, I suppose, on Wolves is, they're going to have teams bigger than themselves looking at the players they've produced and maybe even Nuno and saying, we want that.
Yeah.
Can they fight teams like that off, and are they willing to commit the cash to bring in another calibre of player which will help them battle in the Champions League spots and eventually, hopefully for them anyway, challenge for a Premier League title?
That's it. The philosophies might have to change a little bit. Keeping on Wolves, do you think if the season resumes, it will affect their form in terms of going for a fourth-place push?
I don't think for them it's a tough one because no team really knows what's going to happen in terms of the season will resume, how it's going to be played out. Will it be behind closed doors? Will it be at the grounds that they want it to be? Will it even be played at all?
Yeah.
For Wolves, and the vibe that you get from Wolves is that they are very organised. Nuno knows exactly what he wants from his players, and the backroom staff are very good there as well. So I don't think there'd be any issue in terms of players coming back with a little bit of rust, although I think pretty much every player in the Premier League will come back with some level of rust because they've just not been training as you would expect them to. I mean, training from home is all well and good and you can keep up some level of fitness, but no player is going to come in match fit.
Yeah.
Players can do all the treadmill running and, the home workouts they want, and nothing quite replicates the intensity of a Premier League football game. And it's the same for pretty much every league across Europe and even in the lower divisions.
Yeah.
Even an amateur player, who's playing games regularly will maintain some sort of match fitness. If you're training from home, you're just not able to replicate that.
Yeah.
So I think it will require like a little bit of a mini pre-season before games get going, but it all depends. It might be the case where we're 2 months from now and no games have still been played, and at what point do you draw a line in the sand and say we've got to write this season off? Or leagues could go down the other route and say, look, we're going to finish this season regardless of when it's going to take. It might affect the season. If it's probably already going to affect next season. Even if football came back tomorrow, you think it would have some sort of effect. So it's an interesting situation. It's one that I don't think will affect, the mental form of any team. The physical form will be slightly different, though.
Yeah, definitely. Keeping on the Midlands team in the Premier League, Aston Villa, how do you find their season? Looked like it was going to be improvements in some matches, but then I just don't think they can find their form like consistently to keep it going. How did you think they was getting on?
It's been a weird season for Villa because there was a lot of expectation around them, especially in the I think after the way that they finished last season earning promotion and putting that run together that they did, and then winning obviously in the playoff final, and then you saw the summer where they spent a lot of money, which a lot of people have criticised. I've never really criticised the amount they've spent or they've spent it because it was kind of needed. They had a lot of players who were aging players, a lot of players who were out of contract. And considering that, 15 games before the end of the season, they looked like a mid-table championship side, they obviously needed to improve. Some of those signings have been good. Some of them have maybe been, have taken longer to bed in than they would hope. And it's kind of shown that they're a young side that have been in the Championship a little while and have shown a little bit of naivety in games, especially early on this season. the worry for them is the recent form. Up until the coronavirus suspension, of course, wasn't great. They put in some good performances, but equally they've put in some pretty poor ones. And it's a weird situation for Villa because they're currently in the relegation zone, but they've got a game in hand over the team above them. If they were to win that game, they'd be outside of the relegation zone. So there are a lot of questions over how the season ends. If they're not to play another game this season, how do you end the season? Because if you would say this is your final position, they've been very harshly treated there because they've not played the same number of games as other clubs around them. So I don't think you could relegate them like that. I think even if you do a points per game basis, you'd argue that their points per game would be different depending on this next result.
Yeah.
Game in hand. If they were to win that game, obviously, their points per difference will be higher than some other clubs. So there's a lot of question marks over how the season ends for them. But in terms of form, it's been a disappointing season. They've put in some good performances and there've been some exciting games. You get the feeling that if they are to survive, then you'd hope that they would build on that and maybe bring in a bit more experience. Although admittedly they've been unlucky with injuries as well, losing some big games.
Definitely. I'm just touching on that as well in terms of how the season ends. As you said, on both sides of the table, it will affect. I don't think anyone will be happy. I think it will be one of those where you can't please everyone, whatever decision you make going forward with the season. As you said, they've got a game in hand, so it would be unfair to just end it. And then, because in history books, it would say, well, it was unfairly relegated due to situation that was out of our hands. So as you say, going forward, it's going to be a tough task for the Premier League to see how they can keep everybody happy with whatever decision they come forward with.
Yeah, it's tough, and you look at the Championship as well, and you've got teams that are vying to go up into the Premier League and spend a lot of money in doing that.
That's it.
And there are issues around financial fair play. Like a team like Leeds spent a lot of money putting that team together, and with Marcelo Bielsa. And if you were to not promote a team despite them spending all that money, and then financial fair play comes back, and then they need to sell players, they've been done a real injustice there as well. There's so many question marks over it. For me, I was always a fan of promoting the top two teams.
Yeah.
The Championship, and you'd have to figure out a way of dealing with the playoffs. I mean, it could potentially come down to something as such as points per game. I haven't looked into how many games those teams have played, but if they've all played a level number of games, which you would hope is the case, of course that might not be the case. I have to double check that. Then you could do a points per game basis and do it by the third place finisher.
Yeah.
Or there are just so many permutations though, because the playoffs are a little bit of a lottery, and there are teams that are battling to be in the playoffs. I was always a fan of promoting teams, not relegating teams from the Premier League, and then having maybe an extra relegation spot for the next couple of seasons, or a 5-place relegation zone next season. Because I feel that you've got to reward the teams that have done well in the Championship. But equally, you can't punish teams in the Premier League who haven't finished the season yet.
Yeah, and Championship West Brom's second place, so that would be. I think with your theory, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think they would be. I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because they've done so well this season, and it's strange because I think if you offered it to the fan base, they'd obviously take it. If you offered it to the club, they'd obviously take it. Yeah. There's a little sour taste in the mouth because you haven't actually seen your team go up. It's the same with Liverpool, for example. Liverpool would have wanted to win the league.
Yeah.
By playing the games out, they wouldn't want to be handed a Premier League, and there's always going to be that asterisk there. Won the league in a shortened season and didn't play out all their games, and you kind of hold that over them like a little bit of a knife just dangling by a thread. Like whenever they're going to a discussion in the pub, or there's a big punditry discussion over teams, they'd say, "Oh, Liverpool, one of the best teams that the Premier League's ever seen." It's like, yeah, but they didn't play all their games.
That's it, and that's the stigma that, as you said, always carry them. Even with in the history books, it will say, "Yeah, Liverpool won the league," but due to not finishing in, no one wants to see that. We want the teams win the league fair and square. And they've had a good season up to the point as well, a great season, I should say. So it would be justice, I think, if they had it handed to them.
They wouldn't enjoy it playing it behind closed doors either, because Can you imagine winning a Premier League title or gaining promotion, but there's no fans there to see it?
Stadium's empty.
TV or you're watching it on a stream. It's just it's not going to be the same, is it? You want that celebration, and it's regardless of how it finishes now. You kind of feel that there's going to be someone unhappy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, someone who is happy is young Jude Bellingham. I'm hearing a lot of rave reviews about this young man. What's your thoughts and opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him once this season in the flesh, and I must say I was impressed. It was West Brom versus Blues, a really memorable game actually, because it was the 3-2 Derby Day win for Albion, and it was at St Andrews. And for someone so young, Jude Bellingham looked like years ahead of himself.
Yeah.
There's not many players at his age you see coming into the game and can handle the physicality of the Championship.
Of course.
And he was he was almost a little bit of an enforcer in there. The way that he was running the game for Blues when they were ahead. He looked by far and away their best player. And admittedly, Blues haven't had the best season, but they've not had the worst either.
No.
He looks to me like a player who's got a very bright future. We've seen a lot of young players come through a number of clubs who have had, a lot of potential and not fulfilled that. Jude Bellingham looks like one that could fulfill it. I think any team that signs him is going to have to spend a lot of money doing so. But they'll have a right player on their hands. And if he develops into the player we all kind of, can potentially see, he could be a real superstar.
In terms of that, if he was his agent, would you tell him to stay at Blues for another few more seasons just to get experience, or go for a big club straight away?
It's tough because with agents, you never know what their real motives are, because we all know an agent can get quite a sizable fee from any broker in any kind of deal. If I was to kind of guide him myself, I'd say go somewhere or stay where you're going to play, because you've seen so many young players who have made big moves at a young age and it's not worked out. You only need to look at, say, a Wilfried Zaha when he originally went to Manchester United. It was a little bit too soon for him.
Yeah.
He didn't really play, and it knocked him back a year or two. We saw the same thing with Scott Sinclair when he originally made a move at a young age. And you never know whether that's going to seriously hamper your career or not. Fortunately for someone like Zaha, it looks like it's worked out for him eventually, because for me, he's a player who's going to be getting a big move sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
and it's into one of the Premier League's biggest stars. It would just be interesting to see how well he does at a big club. But someone like Bellingham at his age, you want to be playing football. You don't want to be sitting on the bench and regretting a decision. You look at someone like Jadon Sancho, who made the move abroad, which seems to have been a good one for him.
Yeah.
If that can kind of happen to Jude Bellingham, then there's no saying what you could do. But equally, if he stays at Blues for another year, I don't know what the finances are like, though. They may be forced to sell him depending on their financial situation. As long as he's playing, that's the key thing right now for someone his age.
Yeah, it's game time, definitely.
Mm.
All right, Luke, thank you for your time, mate.
No problem.
Pleasure. Hope you're keeping well, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Cheers, mate.
Take care.
Nice one, mate. Thanks a lot.